A very good morning, children. Well, in today's class of economic application, we shall take up a new lesson, and the name of the lesson is Infrastructure of Indian Economy. Okay, a better recap on what we did in the last class. Well, in the last class, we took up another lesson, and that was the main sector of Indian economy, where we talked specifically on agriculture, and we also discussed the various sectors of economy, that is primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. All right. So the topic of the day, as I said just now, infrastructure of Indian economy. Well, so let's get started. But before we go on further, first a bit of introduction to the lesson. Okay, that is infrastructure. Well, infrastructure is the basic requirement of any economy. Okay, although the prosperity of the country or a prosperity of the economic development, directly depends upon what? It depends upon the development of agriculture and industry, isn't it? Okay, but agriculture and industry also requires certain facilities like transport and communication, banking and insurance, power supply, etc., to name few, isn't it? So all these facilities and services, when we take together, it constitutes an economic infrastructure. Okay, well, so the various infrastructural facility which I mentioned just now, like transport, communication, etc. So these infrastructural facilities supports the very working of an economy. All right. For example, say transport. Transportation, how does it help? Transportation helps in the movement of men and material from one place to another. Right. Likewise, communication facilities like post and telegraphs brings the buyers and sellers together, isn't it? Similarly, power supply. Power supply is also a very important infrastructure. Why? Because it meets the requirement of various, farms, factories, industries, offices, etc. Isn't it? Therefore, when you see all this, we can draw a sort of conclusion that, we can admit the fact, we can say that we can admit the fact that the level of economic development in any country depends upon what? It depends upon the development of infrastructure. Understood? So, development of any economy, you name any economy, it depends upon what? The development of the infrastructure. Okay. Like if you see the developed nations, the developed countries have made a lot of, economic development. Okay. The credit goes to what? Why? It is all because due to the tremendous growth in the social and economic infrastructure. Okay, but on the other hand, if you make a sort of comparison, if you see in the other hand, if you talk about the less developed countries like India and all, here we see, what we see is that there is a lack of qualitative infrastructure. In countries like India, less developed country, we see the infrastructural, we are talking about infrastructure. So what we see is that, the infrastructure is very, very it is not, quality-wise, it is not very satisfactory. So what we see that there is a lack of what? There is a lack of qualitative infrastructure. And due to this, what happens is that the level of economic development is also very low. So what we see is that, the level of economic development of the country, directly depends upon the development of various infrastructure, whether it is a social infrastructure or whether it's an economic infrastructure. Understood? So, so I was telling economic infrastructure and social infrastructure. Well, we are going to talk about the different, the categories, different type of infrastructure further. But before that, let's briefly know what is an infrastructure then. So as I made this introduction to the chapter, from this only we can just make a short definition on what an infrastructure is. Well, in a very simple language, infrastructure means all those facilities and services which facilitates different economic activities, okay, and which further helps in the economic development of the country. Okay, now what are those infrastructure that we talked about then? Well, see, for example, as I said just now, transport and communication, power supply, post and telegraphs, health, sanitation, education. So these are some of the very good example of what infrastructure. Okay, and all this infrastructure together, they facilitates, or what they give supports, or they help in the economic development of a country. So in short, or in very simple language, this is infrastructure. Okay, I'm not quoting the definition from different economists and all. We're making a simple definition by what I explained in the introduction. Okay, right. Now let us see the different types of infrastructure then. Okay, well, see, infrastructure can be divided into two categories. Okay, first is the economic infrastructure, and the other one is what? A social infrastructure. Okay, let us briefly understand what these two infrastructure are. Well, in fact, we have already talked about this so much before, but we have to divide into two categories, which infrastructure comes under economic infrastructure and which comes under social. We are going to see that. Okay, so with reference to that, what is an economic infrastructure first? Well, see, economic infrastructure means all those basic facilities and services which directly benefit the process of production and distribution. That means I'm talking about economic infrastructure. Economic infrastructures are those infrastructure, okay, are those say basic facilities and services which directly benefits the process of production and distribution. Okay, now to name say for example some of the example of economic infrastructure are directly road, transport, communication, banking, insurances. Then we have irrigation, power supply. So these are some of the very good example of economic infrastructure. This infrastructure plays a direct role in the economic development of a country. They have a direct role, okay, in the economic development of the country. Okay, so on the other hand, we have what? Social infrastructure. Now, what is social infrastructure then? Well, see, social infrastructure means or refers to all those activities and services which indirectly helps in the various economic activities. Okay, in the just before this we talked about economic infrastructure. Economic infrastructure directly plays a very important role in the economic activities of the country or economic development of a country, right? Whereas in social infrastructure are all those facilities and services which indirectly helps in the economic activities. Okay, how does it help indirectly then? Okay, let us take an example of education. Education is an example of social infrastructure. Let me give you an example of education. See, education does not directly help in the economic activity of the economic activity like production and distribution. Education, I'm talking about education. It does not directly does not directly say help in the economic activities. Okay, but how does it help in the economic development or economic activities indirectly then? See, through education, how does it help in the indirectly then? See, through education, skilled laborers we can call, okay, skilled laborers like say teachers, okay, technicians, say what else, scientists, engineers, etc. are produced, right? So with the help of it's so indirectly, directly education might not help in the economic development of the country, but it helps indirectly by producing all this we can call it skilled laborers like engineers, technicians, scientists, etc. Understood? Who indirectly helps in the economic development of the country. Understood? So, to some of the very good example of social infrastructure are like as I said just now, one is education, then health care or health services, water supply, then we have sanitation, then so and so forth. Okay, so these are the examples of what? Social infrastructure. Okay, so just keep in mind that economic infrastructure directly helps in the economic development of the country, but social infrastructure does help in the economic development of the country, but indirectly. And how? I explained you with the help of with the help of a social infrastructure education. All right. So I think we'll stop this lesson here. We shall continue this lesson in the next class as well. Till then, you can just go through this video lesson, and if you have any confusion or doubts, you can always WhatsApp me, or you can also call me up for the doubt clearance. Alright? Till then, stay connected and stay safe.